Hey guys, it's 0 to 100 with Natasha and Serena, and you're joining us as we continue our conversation with Byron F. Wilson.
But because I work with young people, I kind of understand where they're coming from.
Mhm.
I get where they're coming from. And I think one of the things I'm most critical of is when people, they criticize these young people, especially with Black Lives Matter. So I had a meeting with the head of Black Lives Matter in Minneapolis
Mhm.
and some of George Floyd's family earlier this week, right? We were talking about working on some programs. So the thing that I realize about it is these guys are out here working, they're trying, but they don't have the experience or the resources to be as effective as they could be. And so what they really do need is somebody older to kind of say, I like your energy. Here's the problem though with that. And what that would require is the older person to respect the young people for who they are, and the young people to respect the old people for the knowledge that you don't have. I'm not saying you're dumb. I'm saying you haven't lived long enough.
Mhm.
As you think about when you were 18 or 16, the guy you were in love with, or I don't know, whoever, the guy or girl you were in love with, when you're 25 even, you're probably thinking, why did I like him? Now think about 45. You're not even the same person,
Mm-mm.
but you were that person. So you have to be able to look at that person now, like I do with my daughter. I'm like, I was dumb. Like I forgot I was this dumb, but I was this dumb. So now, how would I have received it, right? If somebody older would have talked to me like I'm crazy, and that's what we're missing, right? And the onus really is on the older generation. It really is. I don't put the onus on my child to learn how to talk to me. That's on me. I'm the one with the experience. But at the same time, it's hard to tell young cats anything. It really is hard. It's hard. I interned in the NFL, and it's hard to talk to a young dude from the hood that's never had anything, and now you gave him a bunch of money. It's hard to tell him that's going to run out if you don't do some things differently. He doesn't believe it. He thinks he's always going to be rich. And I could tell him over and over, I'm like, hey man, you need to look at this investment. Hey man, need to look at starting this business. All they can think of is, man, I'm such and such. I just got $1 million signing bonus. What are you talking about? I'm always going to be great. And I'm telling you, like, sometimes they just don't hear you, but sometimes they don't. So to answer this question, so I don't even know if I have answered it well, is I think different generations should have different responsibilities. So where the old heads have to come in, they have to come in with the money because that's who has it. The old heads have to come in with the money and experience and say, okay, what we need to do is get Senator such and such to do this, and we can do this by putting this money. They need to do that. The young people need to be out on the streets. That needs to be who is out there in the fire. That's who needs to be. They have the energy. They need to be volunteering. They need to be doing that, standing up, getting arrested. I can't get arrested. I got to go to work. You can though. That's what I'm saying. Like everybody has a role to play. So we should and that's what you were talking about earlier about leadership. I am trying to show that leadership. It takes time. One of the things I've learned in leading a school is you have to get that honest.
Yeah.
The kids don't just trust me just because I stand up and say I'm in charge.
Right.
It's years of them knowing that I care about them first. And you have to convince the community that you are there for them before they're going to follow, period. But there needs to be roles. And all generations have a role to play in this. They do.
I don't want to hijack this, Serena. I got something I gotta say, but I'm gonna let you go because
Uh-oh.
Well, I know that we talked in our last episode, not the last episode, but the first episode about defunding the
wait.
police.
Before you get there, then hold on.
Okay.
Because when speaking on this particular issue of so my big thing is that we are lacking in leadership right now.
Sure.
Right? So they had Malcolm X and they had Martin Luther King basically at the same time, plus all the other people that were speaking out. So right now, while we have civil rights attorneys that are involved and that are working, and I'm trying to get involved in that realm, I just never wanted to make it a job. Like I want that to be a role that is eventually like not relevant because I don't want us to like why are we still fighting, like it's crazy, but whatever. So I recognize a need and I recognize my ability, so I'm trying to do that. But I think that someone is building, is brewing and trying to gain the experiences they need to be that leader, but right now we don't have it. My issue with the generational gap, and that's why I asked the question, because I'm really want to merge it, because I too recognize the benefits of every generation. The generation young, I'm getting of the age where it's like, well, y'all go ahead and do this. I went to a protest one day and they started pulling out this, and I was like, okay, well, I got to stay free so I can get y'all out of jail. So be good now, but keep doing this. And here's my card. Call me if you get arrested. Okay, I got you. But I can't get arrested and then still do what I need to do for them. Like, that's why everybody has their role. Everybody's front line ain't the same front line. My issue with the older generations, I am a member of organizations where me and a couple other people are the youngest people in that organization. And they say the same thing that you're saying. We need younger members. We need people with more energy. We get in, we feed off of that, and then we come and we try to, take on the responsibilities.
People don't want to listen to
For.
you.
No, we don't ask for them. They are given to us. Oh, you do this, you do this, you do this. Y'all young, y'all got the energy. Then we do it and we take it to the highest standard because that's how we do. And then it's just, well, that's different than what we wanted. So no.
I agree.
My issue is that I want it to be normal across all generations to be okay with the fact that you can change your minds. Like, you don't have to defend your position just to defend it. Like, just be open to new ideas that make sense, but you have to come with an open mind. There's never going to be a situation where we bring in 4 different generations where we all say that we have this common goal, and there's not going to be a difference of opinions or different ideas that are thrown around. But the only way that can work is if everyone there is open. But see, my generation, the generation behind me, we're tasked with the responsibility of being respectful. Well, respect your elders. But then at the same time, it's like, dang, like, y'all constantly just shut us down. Y'all disrespectful to us. And then we're just supposed to be blindly disrespectful. But that's what we're fighting against outside of our community too. Like, stop disrespecting me. So it's hard to just shut that off just because it's your elders. So because I don't want to be disrespectful, what do? I just say, well, I'm not going to do this. I go do my own thing.
Here's the other thing you got to keep in mind, not to cut you off, but here's something that people are missing. There's a generation missing in the Black community. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about the 80s babies and the crack, that forced a gap in our generational history. So what happens is you're looking at a 20-year period where all of our young brothers were being murdered and incarcerated at an insanely high rate. So there's a generation missing. So normally you would have like the 60-year-old, right? And then the 40-year-old and then the 20-year-old, okay, right? But we're like missing a gap. So now there's like the 60-year-old and then there's the 20-year-old. That's the challenge. So there's no progression. See, before there was a progression, so the gap is so large, it's harder to relate. Like, it's easier for me to relate to a 25-year-old than it is for a 65-year-old too. You are not nearly as far away from, you understand what I'm saying? Like, but because of the incarceration and murder rate, we're missing a whole generation, like certainly of fathers. We just are. So the gap is much larger than it should be. And that's what makes it difficult. Because yes, a 65-year-old is going to expect you to just respect them. But a 40-year-old may say, oh, don't call me sir. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so there's a larger gap than there really should be. And that's tough. You talk about somebody in their 60s, they didn't have a cell phone. You follow me? They didn't even have a pager. They didn't have the internet. So when you have a gap that's that large, it's hard to have that relatability. That's one of the challenges we have.
I mean, it's a challenge, but okay, so they didn't have cell phones when they were teens or early 20s, but they've had them for a decade at least.
But they haven't adapted.
My grandmother uses a cell phone. I text her every single day. We send pictures back and forth. She goes on Google and tells me why my stomach hurts. So I can't relate to that because I feel like that void is intentional. So my thing is that, like, I'm not saying that it's easy, but what I do know is it is not impossible. It's just a mindset type of thing. And there's like a block there. So you can't come to me and say that you have the same goals and that you want to see the same change affected, but then we sit down at a table and everything I say, like, I don't even put a period and you like already shutting it down. So it's like, okay, well, I see you want to do it your way, and I'm saying that way ain't gonna work.
They think, a lot of them think that the way you behave is so disrespectful to yourselves, it's hard for them to take you seriously. Like, they look at, and to be fair, I mean, it would be hard for them to see, like, I'm not even talking about sagging, because that was kind of my generation was doing that. Like, but y'all still doing it. So for you all, it's okay for boys to wear pink.
Right. So we talked in our episode about defunding the police, and we even saw last week or this past week that Minneapolis made some steps towards that and have abolished their police. I don't know what they're going to put, what the replacement is going to look like, but they're moving towards that. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts on, you know, defunding the police as a solution and replacing it.
So when you look at the history of police, they were just implemented as slave catchers. That's why they even exist. And when you look at prison is just the response to the end of slavery. There was no prison system. So you have these critical systems that are really just the result of slavery and racism, as is all of America, but those in particular, and then we expect these fair results. So there may need to be an overhaul in the system. One of the things you'll notice if you ever go to Johannesburg is there's just not a lot of police. There's just not. Now they have, private protection, but that's because you gotta understand, apartheid was pretty recent. You're talking about the 90s. And so they remember what happens when you put quote unquote law enforcement in frustrated communities. What do you think is gonna happen? But that's what we do now. I don't know that I would defund the police. I do think there are too many police officers. And that's not an issue necessarily that you have to fire officers. It's just that when we retire some, we don't necessarily need to replace all of them. You could phase it out. You don't have to fire people. And they need to be paid more. They're not losing enough for doing the wrong thing. First of all, they're never punished anyway, but they don't have enough to lose. So for example, you know how much the average manager at Walmart makes? Not the assistant manager, but the actual store manager. You know what the national average is for that?
I would guess 70.
175.
I'm gonna go apply. I could do that.
No, nobody ever leaves. You can get the assistant manager, but the regular manager is, you see why. My point is, I'm a guy risking my life every night, maybe for $35,000.
Yeah.
Right? So one thing that I would say is, the more you pay people, the higher intelligence the pool of applicants becomes. That was the premise behind raising teacher payrolls. If you would pay teachers more, you would get smarter people, and then they would weed out the dummies, because for the same whatever $1,000 you're gonna pay, you would take the smarter person.
But they didn't do that though.
No, so what I was saying is, I wouldn't defund them. I think there are too many police officers. So I would say we don't need as many, and then I would take that money and increase their pay, but there would need to be things attached to that. They don't have enough to lose. One of the best ideas I've heard, I think, was, making sure that officers' children go to college, and then when they have any violations, if you kill somebody unarmed, your kid loses that college education. There's some things that we could do, because they don't care about Black lives, but they do care about their own families. So we should do things with that money, instead of defunding them, attach things to them that make them care about us secondarily, indirectly. So you may not care about my Black life, but you do care about your son. And if you kill me, your kid loses his college education. There are ways that we could address it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about, you know, you should have to represent the community that you police. That's the easiest way to solve that problem. Stop putting white police officers in black communities. How hard is that? That's the easiest way to solve this problem. Stop putting white police officers in black communities.
But you understand why they wouldn't do that, right?
I understand that, but there you go back to being positive, right? And thinking that things can change. So if you're going to talk about doing these things, then you must think that you can change it. So I'm just saying, if you believe that you can change it.
I don't. I'm 100% for defunding the police, and then within the next 5 to 7 years, abolishing the police altogether. So I'm optimistic when I can find something to be optimistic about. I've lost all optimism when it comes to the police. I feel like that we should do a complete overhaul of the police system, which means that they should be called something different. I think that each community should police themselves, and I feel like that's how you get what we're talking about here, where there are the people that live within that community working in that community.
Yeah, that would be nice. I think that's a good idea. I just don't know who's buying that. People are afraid.
Yeah.
Right?
What I'm afraid of is my little brother dying at the hands of the police. What I'm afraid of is the fact that like you said, there's no accountability. I don't really care much about like the kids being held accountable, because a lot of these police officers that are doing this don't have families. I feel like the police attract this certain type of person that without proper training that is more than 6 months, without a mental health evaluation and then ongoing training and evaluations, there's no way for you to get that information and really weed those people out, because I don't think they want to. And then I also think that the individual has to be held accountable. So that for you to say that their children's education would be held accountable, that's too much of a gap. That's there's a separation in that chain. So I feel like it has to be them. Me as an attorney, I have to have malpractice insurance. So if I mess something up and someone complains, there's a separate board that evaluates the complaint to determine whether or not there's a basis. If the board finds that there is, then I basically have to be put on trial and defend myself against what this one person is saying that I did. And then if it's found to be true, if an attorney misallocates funds on accident, oh my gosh, it could be your first offense. You're going to be probably suspended for 6 months or more, and you got to pay that money back, and there's a penalty for it. There's no personal punitive consequence for police officers to do this stuff. They can still walk away and get their pension. That's crazy. And I know you want them to be paid more, but they don't have to go to college. They go to school for at the most 6 months. Florida is 6 months. There are other places that are 4 months. That's crazy to me. Yeah, they're only making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, but they walk away with a 6-figure pension, and they get to do it clean. They can do whatever the hell they want to. There's no consequence. And then they just get to walk away I'm going to retire at 49, and this is what I'm going to do. And I killed a couple people and whatever. I just think
when I look at a solution, I don't look at it first philosophically. Philosophically, what you're saying is 100% correct. I look at what's going to be practical. I know that at no point in time will America disband its police officers. That's just not, white people are scared. Black people are scared. They like the idea of somebody's breaking into my house being able to call 911. Nobody's going to give that up. I would liken it to, people didn't even want to give up healthcare and make that all privatized, because when you privatize everything, somebody's always going to get screwed when they don't have the money. If you privatize security, then it still works itself out, because people just get guns and they protect them. So it works itself out. But for you to ask America to have been this way for so long and then go to a point where there's just no police officers, I just don't see the feasibility in that. That's why I'm saying I don't think you're wrong. I think it's more likely that you could cut the number of police and pay individual officers more than disbanding the police department. I'm just talking about it in terms of what is most likely to occur. I don't think you're philosophically wrong. I just don't see it. People are scared. They're not gonna give up the police. They're scared.
And I get that, but I'm scared too, but I'm just not scared of the same thing. So it would take a lot for me to call the police right now.
Right.
basically, if someone breaks into my house, I'm calling the police because that's the person that has to come and do the paperwork and clean up the body off my floor. Like, that's just how it's going to go with me. So I get that people feel that way, but there are things that we can put in place. And police don't fight crime. That's my biggest issue. Like, they don't fight crime. They come after the fact and then do this little half-ass like investigation and then prosecute or decide like who's a suspect, and then they're prosecuted and put through the criminal system. So I have a problem with the entire system. I have a huge issue with the pipeline, from the school to prison pipeline. Like, I have a huge issue with that. I think that prisons, especially privatized prisons, should be abolished. I feel like the police department should be abolished. Do I think that that means that 911 is abolished? No, that means that something else is put in the place of it. So I feel like when you call 911, there needs to be some more like checks and balances that occur with regard to who is going to respond to this. So whatever replaces the police system will respond to things like, someone's breaking into my house, or, oh, this person is raping this person right in front of my eyes. Yes, there is someone to respond to that.
How would that be any different? The only problem is now taxpayer dollars aren't paying for it. So who's paying for this? That's my question. Who's paying for this?
It can still go toward, it can still come from taxpayer dollars, but it's based upon the community itself. But I just feel like, so the example that I give in the episode that we do on defunding the police is that you can have this house, right? That's, you know, the most beautiful location. In some instances, you can renovate the house and maintain the same structure, even if you have to gut out the inside. Other times, there are issues with the foundation of the actual land. And while it's a beautiful location, there are still issues there. So feasibly, and just from a common sense perspective, it doesn't make sense to try to gut that house and remodel. What do? You knock it down, you add whatever you need to add to the foundation to build it up, and then you build the house. You don't use the same blueprint and the same plans and build the same house that was built on this land 100 years ago. No, you are in a place where you can receive input from professionals, from architects and whomever else, to come in and provide information, even on like solar panels. Maybe you're like, I don't need no solar panels, but then someone comes in and they give you the information that you need, and then you say, okay, this does make sense. You have to have an open mind, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a new house. Is it going to give you shelter? Is it going to provide the same things that that house did? Yes, but better. And we're going to look at it different, and we're going to maybe even call it something different.
But here's the problem. You're operating under the premise that the issue is a lack of information. It's not. It's the lack of desire. When you talk about the foundation that caused this is the foundation of America. So unless you're going to tear America down, then you're still going to have. Oh, okay. Well, then that's what. Okay. Well, if that's what you're going to do, okay. I
want to deconstruct everything that this foundation is built upon, but it takes one thing at a time. And what is our biggest issue right now? Police. I'm sick and tired of it. Okay. So I dealt with it firsthand, but then what we see. So it's like you said, it's not a lack of information. We see it. We know what's going on.
So how would you incentivize them to care? They haven't cared all this time. So what do you suggest?
Hit with the police?
Yeah. What incentive would they have to change? Nothing happens to them. If I could just kill people with no consequence, like what incentive do they have to change?
So first of all, that's why I want to get rid of them. And then it's a whole new structure with regard to the people that act as what the police are supposed to do, protect and serve, respond to those certain types of calls. I personally do not believe that they should be answering to half of the calls that they answer to. But the calls that are appropriate for someone who is a person that does what a police officer is supposed to do, whatever entity, government agency, whatever replaces that, it just got to be called something different. I'm just tired of the name police. But because I know what they were, what I know why they were started. Like so it's like, how do you just like put a new coat of paint on it and call the Chevy a Camaro? Like, or call the Chevy a Corvette. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, that still doesn't matter. Call the Chevy a Ferrari. How about that? Okay, so I just feel like you just can't do that. Okay, so if we want to be the strongest nation, if we want to be held at a higher standard, then we have to put the things in place so that we run and look like a Ferrari. Okay, so right now we like a Geo Metro. Okay, so like this raggedy, and I feel like we need to deconstruct things. Okay, and like get it all the way together.
When you say we, what do you mean by we look raggedy? Who look raggedy?
the whole I'm saying the nation as a whole. So like when I go to other countries, like they laugh at us. And I know we can say like we're the strongest, we're this, but it's more and more difficult for me to celebrate 4th of July or for me to celebrate being proud to be an American. I'm embarrassed. Okay, because I feel like this is a human rights issue, what's going on in our nation, and it's absurd for the international courts to get involved and say, y'all got things messed up. What are y'all doing over there? Let us help you.
But here's the reality. People are still selling their souls to become American citizens. And if I take $1 to South Africa, I get 17 Rand. That's the reality of it. None of this matters. It doesn't matter. So you could talk about Trump being an embarrassment, which he is. He's a gross embarrassment. But it doesn't change the fact that the dollar is worth every denomination, is worth more than every denomination except the euro from time to time.
You think it's going to always be like that? I feel like we're moving away from that. There are moments where the dollar has not been as strong. I've been other countries that my dollar is only worth 85 cents.
Only than the euro. That's the only time, like the euro's been stronger at times. But actually the stock market is the strongest. Like it hit all-time highs during COVID-19. Right. So what I'm saying is, what you're saying is correct in terms of appearances, but does it really matter if we have all the money? Nobody spends.
Yes, that's the problem. Stop putting money first.
I'm not putting money first. The world is. That's just how it works. Listen, the fact that the reason we can do what we want to do to everybody is because we have the biggest bank, and also we put more money into the military than anybody. It's not even close. So we have all the guns.
So why are we in debt? Let me ask you a question. Why are we in debt? Why we owe other countries money then we so rich?
Because debt doesn't mean anything. So we look at, you guys look at debt as if
we're in debt.
No, it doesn't. Let me tell you why. Because other countries owe us, and we have all the guns. So if you owe me money, let's say I owe you money, and you come to my house and say, you owe me this $100. I want my $100, and I put this gun in your face. I say, I'm not giving you $100. What are you going to do? You're going to turn around without your $100. So at the end of the day, if we're in debt to people, but we have nuclear arms and they don't, but I have one piece of artillery that costs more than your GDP, then it doesn't really matter. Like, there's no value. But did you know that the dollar isn't based on anything? It's based on U.S. confidence. So see, that's what like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we're in debt, because we always operate in debt. It would have mattered had Gaddafi been successful in creating an actual African currency, a unified African currency, because it would have been backed by actual resources. But since no one's money is actually backed by anything, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, they always have the most confidence in United States stock exchanges. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we look like. That matters to you as a human being and how you feel about it. But in terms of how the world works, doesn't matter. Those are the only two things. The only two things, please remember this, if you remember nothing else I say. The only two things that ever really make a change are money and violence. That's it. You tell me a time in history when something significant occurred for any reason other than money or violence. That's it. And we have the most money and we're the most violent. We're the world's largest terrorists, are we not? Okay, so we have the two things that make everything work, unfortunately.
Are we the largest domestic terrorist or?
Abroad.
Okay.
Are you kidding me? Why do you think your gas is the price that it is?
No, I'm literally just asking the question.
Huh?
I'm literally just asking the question.
Oh yeah, no, we are both. So the reason.
Exactly.
What? No, we're the largest terrorists domestically and abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't characterize it that way. We look at these other countries and we say, oh, it's genocide. Oh, I mean, we do the same thing. We're basically basically these are acts of war. We're basically at a civil war right now. We're not characterizing it as such, but it essentially is. It's a civil war. America has gone to war against Black Americans. So it's been at war for some time. So we kill people all the time. We kill babies for oil. That's what it is. That's why your gas is the price that it is, because we're willing to kill children. That's just the truth about America, right? It is what it is. So are you going to give up your gut? You're going to pay $5 a gallon so that we don't kill babies?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
I don't know if everybody agrees with you.
I know they don't, but that's my issue.
And they say, well, are they
Are they healthy babies?
Are they
Have the mom and we're the fathers in this situation. Let's
right? See, I'm just saying. But no, I understand what you're saying. I really do. I do. You know what the real solution is that people don't want to hear? We really would need to go to Africa. And nobody wants to hear that because it just sounds so dramatic. But I live there essentially. Like I have permanent residency in South Africa, so I can. So my point is, if you haven't really been there, you wouldn't know why I'm so comfortable saying that. Their condition, the Black people in Africa, in South Africa specifically, their condition is better than ours. And so we look at it as you think, oh, we have more money. They're better. Their position is better because they're the physical majority and they run their own government. Two things we don't have. And we won't.
We could have it though.
How are we gonna be the physical majority? What are you talking about?
Because a lot, like, because they
protect the sex, huh?
Because of the one drop rule, every time someone that's Black,
it's true.
I feel like by like 2030, this is just like a rough estimate. I feel like the Black race is going to be the majority, and that's why white supremacy is fighting so hard against it, because they know that they're destined to be a minority, because Black is where it's at. So every minority, like there's a big percentage of that, or not every minority, every like race or ethnicity or whatever, there's a percentage of them that is attracted to Black people, whether it's African American, Caribbean, Black, there's different types of Black, and that's why African American does not encompass all Blacks. But if your race is Black and you have a baby with somebody else, that baby Black. So I feel like we can't be a majority.
But everybody's not down with us. Is Candace Owens Black? Like, yes, she's Black, but does it matter? Like, so that's the other thing.
No, but I'm saying for the numbers, we could be a majority, and I think that the percentage within us, like I got tired of fighting with them on Facebook, right? About people to look like me, and then they're saying these foolish things, and I'm like, wait, they just must not know. Let me tell them. And then like the conversation, I'm just like, what the heck? So I get it. But I get it. But I feel like the majority of us are on the right track, so we can't get distracted by that. And I feel like we can have our own political party. We can have our own, like we can push towards that, and then we can get to the point where our voice is just like what you're talking about in South Africa. So part of me, because I say it all the time, if Trump wins again, I got to go, because I just can't deal with this foolishness. But I feel like I can't leave everybody here. I feel like I could do some stuff to push those types of things in motion. So I feel like I can't leave. But if I was just being like selfish, I'd be like, child, please, I would have been gone. I love Thailand. I would have been in Thailand or something.
Oh. Okay. All right. Okay. You have a beautiful attitude. You really do. That's great. We need that. We need that type of positive energy.
It falls on deaf ears, but then I still just be like, blah, 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 on my little soapbox.
Okay. I mean, your energy will make up for it, right? If you're actually doing things towards it, then it's okay.
That's why we can move in that direction. It might not happen in my lifetime, but hopefully I'll leave a legacy, and then they'll continue it. And then the generation, one day I'll have kids, and then I'll tell them all the principles of the Black Panther movement and how to deal with these certain things. And then they'll grow up with that. So they'll be stronger and smarter than even I was. And then maybe it won't happen in their generation, but then they'll have kids, and their kids will be even stronger than they were. And then eventually we can get there.
Biggest challenge for Black businesses is lack of capital. We aren't typically able to have the same startup funding. Mm-hmm. Because there's nothing handed down for you, and you're not going to get a loan. And when you get a loan, it's not going to be as cheap as their loan.
Right.
And what happens is you can't float. So it's like in business, there's going to be time where you need to front things, right, to do it the best way. And then you have to make that money back. But when you don't have the proper capital, you have to live liquid all the time. So it's like, that's why you see things being delivered late, because they're understaffed. If you had the proper capital, we could pay you now, and we know the money is coming back to us. But in a lot of times with the Black business, it's like, I don't have the money to pay you now, so we're going to be understaffed, and now you're going to get your stuff late. That's just the bottom line.
And a lot of times so I know that right now the Black community is just flooding with entrepreneurs, but we're working 9 to 5s and having a side business. So that's why I cut them some slack, because I know that 9 times out of 10, if I want to start my business, when I wanted to start my own firm, I had to do it on the side while I still clocked in and out, hypothetically or whatever. But because I didn't have anyone to be like, okay, I'm ready to go on my own now. Thank you, because I'm going to do this. So the same way when someone wants to start a t-shirt apparel store or whatever, they still got to clock in and out, and then they're cutting, their day-to-day expenses, so that the same thing you did, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're cutting their monthly expenses so that they can funnel the extra resources to this thing that they believe in, this side business that is either going to make them a better life financially or going to create something that they can pass down to their children.
But that's why the main thing that we emphasize when we're talking to Black businesses is customer service. Because people will work with you. That's what propelled Chick-fil-A to be so successful. It's not that they really have a superior product, because remember, nobody cared about chicken sandwiches. When Chick-fil-A first opened, nobody cared about a chicken sandwich. It was a gimmick that you had at your burger place. Nobody would go to a place that only had chicken sandwiches. They won people over with their service, their customer service. And if you know you're going to struggle, you need to be nice.
Yes.
Like you need to be accommodating. You need to hustle. Like, if people see you hustling, eventually they'll still leave, but they'll leave later. Like, eventually, if you can't get it done, you can't get it done. But people will work with you when you're like, oh, I'm sorry, here, let me make it right. Oh, I'm working. If they see you hustling in the store, they're like, if I go in the store and it's understaffed, and I see you really hustling, I'm sorry, I'm like, man, that girl is working hard, I'll probably stay. But if you're understaffed and then you seem lazy, like, I'm not going to leave. Like, now I'm mad that you don't have enough people, and I'm mad at your attitude. So there are some things that you could try to do.
Okay, but we're still talking about, because I had this actual instance. It took me a month before they even shipped the thing that I ordered. So I sent them an email, and I was like, just cancel it. Like, come on now, you ain't sent this. And they sent it, and it went to this person, then it went to DHL, and I was like, why y'all using DHL? And I was like, stop, like, cut this out. And I was like, just cancel it, like, whatever, just keep it, whatever facility, have them send it back to you. Like, I'm just over it. And I apologize. And but then I later on sent them an email like, hey, like, this coming from a place of love, like, whatever. But I wouldn't do that again for Target. But with Chick-fil-A, you got to understand the background of things and why those employees are able to be like, my pleasure, because they ain't perfect. I got there at 10:37 one day and I still wanted breakfast, and they told me no. And I boycotted them for 2 weeks because I thought that was absurd. Like, since when can Chick-fil-A?
Is it over at 10:30?
It's over at 10:30, and it was 10:37. And I was like, I know all of this is some nuggets with some little bread. That's the only difference. If you don't go in there and put some
time. Really, that was on you. Why'd you get there on time? They said it's over 10:30. That sounds like it's a you problem.
That is a me problem, but Chick-fil-A make it their problem. So my thing with Chick-fil-A, you recognize that it's only $5,000 to start a Chick-fil-A franchise, but they take such a huge percentage of your proceeds, your profit or whatever. So it's easier for someone that has that hustler kind of mentality to go and start a franchise with Chick-fil-A, way easier than it is to start Popeyes, a McDonald's or whatever. And Chick-fil-A doesn't give you as much leeway. So they maintain a lot of the profit and they dictate how you do things. So that's great for us. However, they have the backing to be able to do that. So we have to understand that, like, that still goes back to the legacy and what is behind the person. So this person that was sending me this sweatshirt, that it took a month and something, and I'm like, child, just keep it. Like, just give me my little $50 back and just keep it. But then I can go in there and I can talk mess about, because I'm finna talk mess about this company that I ordered something from, because they're not a Black-owned business. That's just what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna tell people don't order from them. But will I do that for this company? Nope. when I wear the particular thing, I'm gonna plug them up. But I also sent them an email and said like, hey, I hope y'all fix this because I value customer service. That's why I shop at Publix. That's why I shop at Target over Walmart. That's why I still go to Chick-fil-A, even though I know that they donate to Trump. I just can't really get away from Chick-fil-A. They deliver me food for free. How can I get away from that? But I am principled in other instances. So, so like I don't go to Starbucks no more, and that was really difficult. Everybody knows how much I love Starbucks. But
well, why didn't you go to a Chick-fil-A that is at least owned by a Black person? Why didn't
you down here? I looked.
Oh, well, in Atlanta, there's several. So
I know a girl who opened a Chick-fil-A franchise. That's when I was like, oh, let me look and see if I can do this. And I thought that's why I know how easy it is. As long as you're within, they predetermine the areas where you're allowed to open a Chick-fil-A. If you're in one of those areas, then you can open one, and you could literally, like, you could, with the money in your pocket, like us working, you know, almost paycheck to paycheck type people, you could start a Chick-fil-A franchise, but there's a lot of work that goes
there, and they only promote from within. Like there's some stipulations. So, you know what I mean? Subway's buy-in is pretty easy too.
Subway gave me food poisoning, so I don't rock with them either.
Okay, all right.
They don't be cleaning their lettuce good enough, so I don't really got.
Yeah.
Yo, we gotta come back. We gotta come back.
No, you guys are great. You know what?
Great.
You guys are great. I hope you guys and your families make a trip to Atlanta soon. That would be nice. You can come to another place
next weekend, but I don't know.
We are not shutting it down in Atlanta, okay? We go out mask free. We do whatever right here.
I don't know about mask free, but
I will be the Lone Ranger or whatever.
Hey,
I'm wearing my mask.
We just wash our hands, and you know, I don't know.
I've been in the bathroom with some people, and they don't be washing their hands, so I'm wearing my mask.
That's true. Okay. Are their hands wiping you in the mouth? What are you doing?
No, they touch things, and I might touch them, and then.
Okay, I was about to say that maybe you should work on that. Maybe you should stop letting people just.
Okay, you tried it. Okay, you tried it.
I'm just messing with you.
But I'll be in Atlanta very, very soon, in the very near future. So we will definitely connect.
All right, well, let me know, you guys, next time you want to chat or whatever. It's all good. You guys are great. Wish you the best, right? You guys are brilliant. And I like the way you have, obviously, different philosophies to life in general. But you all seem to still be cool. That's love. I like it.
That's my dog.
That's right. I like that. All right, so I'm gonna go. I need to still eat dinner. It's kind of late for me, right?
I know. I missed the entire
for 3 hours.
I gotta try to stay young. You know, Father Time is undefeated, so I'm just, you know what I'm saying. I'm still trying to hit him a couple of times. Yeah, I'm trying to get him.
An old boss said there's one alternative to getting old. So I don't understand why people run away from getting old, because there's only one.
I don't mind it. Actually, I'm much better than when I was in my 20s. I was real stupid in my 20s. I thought I knew stuff. I was so stupid. I didn't know anything about how the world works. I don't need to go back to that. My body felt better though a little bit. I could jump higher. I miss that. How about that?
Hey, what you need to jump for? Just stay.
Exactly. I really right. It's irrelevant now, so it's okay. Thank you, ladies. You guys are the greatest of all time. Yeah.
We have a couple points that we didn't get to, so we're gonna add some more stuff to that, and we're gonna do this again.
You let me know if you need something. I got you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Bye.
Stay safe. Bye.
Bye. You too.